Hey, so I've been gone from this channel for a while because I was finishing the edits on my first book, and it's finally done, but it's not going to be out until August of next year, 2022. And we'll talk more about that as it gets closer, so make sure you subscribe and follow me on everything so you can keep up to date. And this video, I want to talk about Travis Scott, Astroworld Fest, the 8 deaths that happened because of the negligence on behalf of Travis Scott and Live Nation, the organizers of the event, and rising beyond that because of the many more hospitalized at this event. People have been talking about this, so I'm not going to go into details of the event specifically, but I want to specifically talk about some of the responses to this whole thing. And I'm talking about these responses from many people, mostly young people, mostly on TikTok, saying that this was actually a satanic ritual sacrifice led by Travis Scott. Everyone's been talking about the negligence, but these people are saying it was all intentional, it was all planned, and that's why Travis Scott was singing as bodies were being carried out. It's, I guess, like, if you sing a certain way, that signifies that the souls need to be sent to Satan in a certain way. And it's so annoying how much of a stronghold that fundamentalist Christians have on the culture to this day, because they made up the whole Satanic Panic stuff in the 80s and 90s. And now you have plenty of non-Christians who genuinely believe that there's a bunch of satanic cults out there who are holding ritual sacrifices of human beings. But all of that was made up. There has never been found any sort of group making these kinds of sacrifices. And all those people that got famous for saying that they escaped those cults and then wrote books about it and went on tour and were interviewed as experts on Satanism were later exposed as liars, some of them even admitting to being liars. And perhaps the best evidence is the fact that they couldn't point back to this cult that was apparently kidnapping and killing so many children. We just had to be thankful that they found Jesus now. And so some of the people were pointing to some of the satanic imagery and Travis Scott's whole aesthetic and the images he's been putting out and the way that Astroworld is organized. And honestly, I really don't think Travis Scott or Lil Uzi Vert or Playboi Carti or any of these other rappers that play with satanic imagery stuff, I really don't think that they're actually trying to be demonic or whatever, and like genuinely thinking that they're communicating with some satanic figure or something. They're just trying to be edgy. Because here's the facts. Being satanic and playing with demonic stuff is one of the few marketable ways to be edgy left these days. Travis Scott can't be edgy in like a left-wing anti-capitalist direction because that would be a contradiction of values. And he can't be edgy in like a right-wing white nationalist direction because these corporations that are sponsoring him want to appear socially aware. And so, of course, they're not going to stand for that. So one of the few ways to be edgy left and keep all your sponsors these days is to just be demonic and satanic and be all creepy that way. But it all has to do with its marketability. But here's what really got me thinking. There was no ritual sacrifice to Satan, but these lives were sacrificed because people's safety and well-being were sacrificed. They oversold the show, and when people broke down the fence and rushed in on top of the oversold crowd, the show should have been stopped then, and then the show should have been stopped when people started fainting, and then the show should have been stopped when people started dying. The show should have been stopped when ambulances were there and bodies were being carried out. But it continued because these lives and everyone's safety was sacrificed not to some otherworldly entity, but to something right in front of us. Capital. Money. Mammon. Mammon is the biblical word for material wealth, most famous in Jesus' quote where he says, "You cannot serve both God and Mammon." There is no secret groups lurking in the shadows planning some satanic takeover, because Mammon already took over. and the safety and the lives of the entire working class are being sacrificed to Mammon every single day. That's how capitalism works, with a ruling class owning and controlling the means of producing and distributing resources, and everyone who actually works for the ruling class doesn't have that kind of control and power. And we're required to sell our labor at the altar of endless production for endless consumption in order to survive. That show kept going because of the money that is made at those kinds of shows. And Travis Scott's shows in general over the last couple years have been getting more and more dangerous because he has marketed himself as the guy who has dangerous shows where everyone rages and gets hurt and maybe even gets close to dying. And so in order for Travis Scott to maintain that marketability, all the fans' lives are sacrificed for it. I'm reminded of this quote from the English poet Robert Southie, writing in the early 1800s, criticizing capitalism in England. And he says, "Commercial nations, if they acknowledged the deity whom they serve, might call him all gold. And if the sum of their sacrifices were compared, Mammon would be found a more merciless fiend than Moloch." Moloch being a very famous god in the Old Testament that people sacrificed children to. And so he's like, if we want to talk about how many lives have been sacrificed to any sort of god, Mammon's got them all beat. Capital has got them all beat. And when the New Testament Christian writers talked about the demonic or Satan or the beast, they were talking about the forces that empower the Roman Empire to continue exploiting people. And today, so many Christians in the United States, when they talk about the demonic, they're not talking about forces that control the empire of the United States. Rather, they associate the demonic with forces that are trying to overthrow the empire. They have it completely flipped upside down. They think America as an empire is something we need to preserve, and anyone or anything that comes against it is demonic, linked to these secret demonic satanic groups lurking in the shadows, planning a takeover that would destroy America. If America gets destroyed, then that would definitely be a God thing, not a Satan thing. It would be a Satan thing to keep the empire in power, continuing to exploit people, continuing to sacrifice them so that the ruling class can continue to grow more and more wealth. Now, when it comes to the details of the demonic, what that looks like, or what spiritual warfare is, there's so many varying opinions across all these Christian denominations. I don't really need to get into the details. Some take a more literal approach to this topic. Some take a more symbolic approach. Whatever. I'm just hoping that all the Christians watching this video can consider this, that sacrificing lives in order to attain more wealth is demonic. And it's specifically demonic because it's anti-Christ. Christ, who said that he has come to set the oppressed free, who talked about the kingdom of God, where the first will be last and the last will be first. The demonic hinders us from experiencing the liberation of the kingdom of God. And so there's some of my thoughts from this leftist Christian guy over here. Thank you for watching. You can support me on patreon.com/Damon Garcia. I would really appreciate the support. This is the part, if any weird capitalist Christians are watching this, say, ha, he critiqued capitalism and now he's telling people to go check out his Patreon. It's not the same thing. Capitalism is when an owner exploits his workers and keeps the surplus value that the workers make and only gives them a small percentage of it. I'm just trying to get a little help toward some security in my life, which is what a lot of us are actually after, some security. And I spend a lot of time making all this stuff, so like I said, I'd appreciate the support. So go check that out. Follow me and everything. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.